Let's do this practice. The bank capital and the profit. And we can use the return on equity, return on asset, and the Dupont equation to solve this problem. In this case, you can see there are two different banks. One bank is called a high bank capital. The other bank is called a low bank capital. Both banks has the same amount of asset. If you look at the high bank capital, the total amount of asset is $100. 10 plus 90. Similarly, in the low bank capital here, this bank also have a $100 asset. So both the bank has the same amount of the asset and the same amount of the components on the asset side. What about the liability and the bank capital side? For a high bank capital, $90 come from the deposit and $10 come from the bank capital, which means the $10 come from the shareholders' money. For a low bank capital, this company, and we can see this company rely more heavily on the deposit, $96, but rely less on the bank capital, only $4. So that's the reason we call the low bank capital, because this company only have a $4 bank capital, but this company have a $10 bank capital. Okay, so let's solve the question number 1. Calculate bank leverage. And you have to recall the formula to calculate bank leverage equals the bank asset divided by bank capital. So for the high bank, we use H to represent the high bank capital. For the high bank capital, bank leverage equals, and we know the total asset is $100, divided by bank capital 10. So high capital bank, the bank leverage is 10. For the low bank capital, bank leverage equal same formula, same amount of asset, but the bank capital of the low bank equal 4. So bank leverage equal 25. So here I can ask you the question, which bank face the higher risk? Is a high bank capital or low bank capital? The answer is, for the risk, high bank capital have a lower level of risk. Low bank capital has higher level of risk. What's the reason I say this? So you have to go back to the balance sheet. For the low bank capital, liability is $96. So no matter what happened, this bank need to pay back $96 to the depositors. So this bank has a high amount of liability, or we can say high amount of the obligations. But for the high bank capital, because more money comes from the owners, so less money comes from deposit, only $90. So this bank face the lower level of the liability or obligation. So they just need to pay back $90, which means they face the lower level of the risk. So from the risk perspective, you may argue the high bank capital is better because the risk is lower. But let's solve the question number 2. ROE for each case. And ROE for a high bank capital. And we know ROE equal ROA, return on equity, multiplied by bank leverage. So you have to keep in mind this formula. Because ROA, return on asset, is given number 1% times bank leverage. In this case, high capital bank is 10. So return on equity for a high bank capital is 10%. But what about return on equity for a low capital bank? Still use the same formula. Return on asset for this bank is 1%. Multiplied by leverage. And we know leverage is 25 in this case. So return on equity is 25%. So now comes the question. Which company has higher profit to the shareholders? So answer is very obvious. Low bank actually has higher profit because for every $1 shareholders put into the low bank capital, it will generate 25 cents. But for the high bank capital, for every $1 shareholders put into the bank, it only generates 10 cents. So profit is low. So which company does a better job in terms of the profit? It's a low capital bank. Then you may ask the question, which bank are you going to choose? You actually face the trade-off. If you want to choose the bank with the lower risk, you choose the high bank capital or this bank. If you want to choose the bank based on the profit, low bank capital least generate a higher profit, 25%. So that's the trade-off everyone need to understand here. The trade-off between the risk and the return or profit. For a bank, like a low bank capital, rely more heavily on the liability, borrow more money, it face the high risk, but at the same time, it increase the profit. For a high capital bank, the bank leverage is only 10%. So it face the very low risk, but at the same time, it reduce the profit, only reach the 10%. So do you want a high risk or do you want the high profit? So that's the trade-off you have to consider if you become a banker in the future.